My ex-girlfriend said, "It's just dinner with a coworker." The next morning, I found a hotel keycard stuffed behind our headboard. So I booked the same room, under my name. Now everyone has the footage, especially HR. Hey there, we're working hard to hit our first 1,000 subscribers. If you love true, emotional stories, hit that subscribe button. It helps more than you know. Now let's get into the story. Last night, my girlfriend told me she was just grabbing dinner with a coworker. This morning, while making the bed, I found a hotel keycard shoved behind our headboard. It wasn't ours. It wasn't even from a hotel in our city. So yeah, that happened. Not gonna lie, for about a minute I just stared at it, like my brain was trying to load a missing file or something. It didn't make sense at first. It felt like some random glitch in reality, like how sometimes you find someone else's shopping list in your cart at the grocery store. Except this wasn't some cute accident. It was a damn keycard. I sat down on the edge of the bed, still holding it in my hand, and looked around the room like maybe I'd find more clues lying around if I just squinted hard enough. But everything looked normal. Too normal. Her favorite hoodie was draped over my desk chair. Her shoes were still kicked off by the door. There was a half-drunk coffee on her nightstand. If you didn't know better, you'd think everything was perfectly fine. I flipped the keycard over. Stamped right there on the back was the hotel name. Not one of the big chains, but a boutique one. Definitely not local. And the dates? Last night. Check-in, 9:15 p.m. I put the keycard down like it was radioactive. The clock said 10:03 a.m. She was still asleep, curled up on her side like she didn't have a care in the world. Like she hadn't told me she was grabbing a quick dinner and that she'd be home by 9. She stumbled in close to midnight. I remember because I woke up to the door rattling and her trying to quietly sneak in like a teenager past curfew. She smelled different too. Not like her usual fruity perfume. Something sharper, muskier, a little too much cologne in the air. But she had kissed me on the forehead, mumbled something about being tired, and face-planted into bed. I didn't even think to question it. I just trusted her. Yeah, that's on me. I sat there for a long time, listening to the little ticking sound of the wall clock, feeling this cold, slow anger build up in my chest. I could have woken her up. I could have shaken her and demanded answers right there. But honestly, she wouldn't have told the truth anyway. People never do when they think they're still ahead. And I didn't want to lie. I wanted proof. I wanted her caught so badly that there wouldn't be any room left for excuses or half-baked stories. No, it's not what it looks like. No, we just talked. No, you're crazy. So I slipped the keycard into my wallet, grabbed my car keys, and told myself I was just running errands. She didn't even stir. Funny how the world can fall apart and one half of it sleeps peacefully through the wreckage. I wasn't even sure what I was doing when I got in the car. I just knew I needed to see it for myself. I needed to know if I was the idiot in the story or if there was still a chance, some miracle twist, that this was all some stupid misunderstanding. I punched the hotel's name into Google Maps. It was about 40 minutes outside the city, near the interstate. Kind of a weird place to stay if you live here. Unless you're trying to make sure no one you know sees you. Every mile closer to that hotel, the pit in my stomach got bigger. I played out 1,000 fake scenarios in my head. Maybe she got too drunk to drive home and booked a room. Maybe her coworker was a woman. Maybe there was some innocent explanation. But deep down, I already knew. I parked across the street, just staring at the building for a few minutes. It was small, only 3 stories. Clean but cheap looking. The kind of place you rent by the night, not the week. There were 2 cars in the lot. One of them, I recognized. It was her coworker's. The guy she always said was just a work friend. The one who got her in ways I couldn't because they worked the same long hours. The one who always liked her Instagram photos suspiciously fast. The one who, last month, accidentally called her babe in a comment and then deleted it 5 minutes later. I leaned back in my seat and just let that fact settle. She didn't even bother parking somewhere else. She was comfortable. That's when I knew. There weren't going to be any miracles today. I could have walked away. I could have just broken up with her and moved on. But something petty inside me snapped wide open. Not the part of me that wanted revenge because I was hurt. The part of me that wanted her to know she wasn't smarter than me. That she wasn't going to laugh about this with her friends behind my back. That she was going to crash and burn, spectacularly. I started the car. Pulled into the parking lot. Went straight to the front desk. "Hi," I said, putting on my best tired traveler face. "Last-minute trip. Any chance you have a room available?" The woman at the desk smiled politely and tapped on her keyboard. "We do," she said. "Room 312 just checked out this morning. Should be clean by now." I smiled back. "That'll do just fine." When I opened the door to room 312, the first thing that hit me wasn't the look, it was the smell. A stale mix of cheap cologne, body spray, and something else. The kind of smell you don't notice when you're drunk and desperate, but it lingers afterward like a bad memory. The room was small. Queen-sized bed, ugly beige carpet, dusty-looking TV, a sad little coffee maker that probably hadn't been cleaned since the Obama administration. Nothing fancy, nothing romantic. It wasn't the kind of place you bring someone you love. It was the kind of place you bring someone you want to forget afterward. I set my backpack down and stood in the middle of the room for a second, just absorbing it. This was where it happened. This was where she decided I wasn't enough. I didn't really know what I was looking for. I started slow. Opened the drawers, checked under the bed, looked behind the bathroom door. Maybe I was hoping to find something stupid, like a receipt, a necklace, some article of clothing someone forgot. Proof that this wasn't some one-off thing. Then I saw it. On the floor by the trash can. A crumpled piece of hotel stationery. At first, I thought it was nothing, but the way it was balled up looked deliberate. Like someone had second-guessed throwing it away. I fished it out and smoothed it open. 2 names, scrawled in messy handwriting. Room service order scribbled underneath. Wine. Dessert. Extra towels. And at the top, a little doodle of a heart with 2 initials. Hers and his. No last names. Just letters. But I knew them. God help me, I knew them. I sat down hard on the edge of the bed, holding that stupid piece of paper like it was going to burn a hole through my hand. There it was. Black ink on white paper. Confirmation. Not just sex, romance. Inside jokes. Little doodles like teenagers in love. I guess part of me still wanted to believe maybe it was just a mistake. Just a drunken thing. Just a stupid, regrettable night. But people don't doodle hearts when it's a mistake. They doodle hearts when they think they're invincible. I stuffed the paper into my backpack without thinking. I didn't know what I was going to do yet. I just knew I wasn't leaving without it. I spent a while just sitting there. I thought about all the late nights I waited up for her. All the times I said, "It's okay, I trust you." All the times she promised she'd never hurt me. And here I was, alone in a cheap motel room, holding the receipts for her betrayal in my hands. Then a crazy idea hit me. Hotels have cameras, usually in the hallways, maybe even in the lobbies. If they were stupid enough to be obvious, to not even bother hiding it, maybe there was more. I didn't know if the front desk would give me anything, but hell, it was worth a shot. I left the room, tried to act casual walking downstairs. At the front desk, there was a different woman, younger, looked like she had better things to do than babysit cheating guests. I leaned on the counter and smiled the kind of tired, helpless smile that people instinctively want to help. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice low and friendly, like we were already on the same team. "I think I might have lost something yesterday. Is there any way to check if it showed up on your cameras? Like, in the hallway or something? I'm just trying to retrace my steps." Super embarrassing. She hesitated for a second, bit her lip. "Technically," she said slowly, "we can't just hand that over without management approval." I kept smiling, nodded like I understood, slipped a folded $20 onto the counter with my palm. "Just if you happen to see anything. No copies, nothing serious." She glanced around, like she was checking if anyone was watching. Then she sighed. "Give me a second." She disappeared into a back room. I stood there, heart thudding against my ribs, pretending to look at the faded tourist brochures on the wall. 5 minutes later, she came back, holding a battered old laptop. She spun it around so I could see. Black and white footage. Time-stamped. Hallway outside room 312. I leaned in, pretending to squint casually, like I wasn't about to throw up or punch a wall. There they were, hers and his, walking down the hall at 9:22 p.m., her hand tucked into the back pocket of his jeans, his arm around her shoulders, steering her like she belonged to him. At the door, they stopped. He kissed her. Not a quick, guilty kiss. Not a stolen peck. The kind of kiss that said this wasn't their first time. She laughed after, throwing her head back like he just said something hilarious, and pushed open the door to 312. They disappeared inside. The footage ended there. No sound. No excuses. Just facts. I straightened up, nodded like I was grateful for the help. Inside, I felt like my whole chest was caving in. I slid another $20 across the counter. Asked for a copy, just in case I remembered something. She hesitated again, but finally popped a flash drive into the laptop and transferred the footage over. When she handed it to me, I thanked her like she'd just done me the biggest favor of my life. Because she had. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do with it yet. But whatever it was going to be good. Really, really good. I got in my car, plugged the drive into my laptop, and watched the footage again. And again, until the anger cooled into something harder. Sharper. More patient. They thought they'd gotten away with it. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. I just sat in my car, outside that hotel, engine idling, laptop screen lighting up the dark interior, watching it over and over. Every time I saw her hand slide into his pocket, or his arm tighten around her shoulders, or that easy, laughing kiss right before they disappeared behind the door, it carved a little deeper into me. Not even the footage itself hurt the most. It was how comfortable they looked. Like they'd done it 1,000 times before. Like sneaking around was just part of the fun. None of that movie scene nonsense. I just sat there, breathing in the cheap air freshener smell of my car, feeling my heart go cold. After maybe an hour, I finally started thinking clearly. I wasn't going to just confront her. No big shouting match. No giving her the chance to lie, cry, manipulate. I wanted to make it bigger. Real consequences. She didn't just cheat on me. She risked everything. Her job, her reputation, because she thought she was smarter than everyone. I figured it was time to show her exactly how not smart she really was. I opened my email, created a brand new account. No names, no identifiers. I typed up a short, polite little message. Subject: potential code of conduct violation. Body: hello. I believe you may want to review the attached footage regarding employees, her name, and coworker's name. It seems to involve inappropriate behavior that may violate company policies regarding workplace relationships and supervisor-subordinate conduct. Anonymously submitted for your awareness. Attach the footage. Hit send. Boom. Just like that. Not dramatic. Just clinical. And the best part? This wasn't just her coworker. It was her direct supervisor. Married. With 2 kids. The company she worked for had a strict no fraternization policy, especially between management and subordinates. I remembered her complaining about it once, laughing about how old-fashioned it was, how it wouldn't apply unless someone reported something. Well, consider it reported. I sat back and watched the email disappear into cyberspace. Then, and only then, did I head home. When I walked back into our apartment, she was still asleep, or pretending to be. Either way, I didn't say anything. Just went into the kitchen, made coffee, and scrolled mindlessly through my phone like it was any other lazy Sunday. She finally woke up an hour later, yawning, stretching, acting like the innocent girlfriend who'd just had a long night at work. "Morning," she mumbled. "Morning," I said back, calm as anything. She shuffled to the bathroom, completely oblivious. I watched her go, this weird sense of detachment settling over me. Like I was already watching the crash happen from the future. Like nothing she could say or do now mattered anymore. The wheels were already in motion. I just had to sit back and let gravity do its job. The next day at work, I got a text from her around noon. "Hey babe, work is crazy today. Meetings back to back. Might be late." I just smiled, because I already knew exactly what kind of meetings she was talking about. And they weren't the normal kind. That afternoon, I made myself a sandwich, pulled up LinkedIn, and started refreshing her company's page like it was Christmas morning. I didn't have to wait long. At around 3 p.m., their official account posted something about renewed commitment to ethical workplace standards. No names. But I knew. By 5 p.m., my phone started blowing up. Not from her, yet, but from mutual friends. Apparently, there had been a situation at her office. Someone got escorted out. 2 someones, actually. Her boss. And her. It was already starting to leak. Coworkers were talking. Friends of friends were posting cryptic little stories about scandals and crazy HR blow-ups. Some even figured out who it was. I leaned back in my chair, sipping coffee, watching the digital wildfire spread. She still hadn't texted me anything real. Still pretending everything was normal. It almost made me laugh. The pure delusion of it. She thought if she just stayed quiet long enough, the storm would pass. She didn't realize the storm was coming from inside the house. It took about 24 hours for her perfect little world to start cracking open. She came home that night later than usual. Not late enough that it would be suspicious if I didn't already know better. But she walked indifferent. jittery, eyes darting like she was still expecting someone to jump out from around the corner. I was on the couch, half watching TV, when she dropped her bag by the door. She stood there for a minute, like she wasn't sure whether to say something or not. Finally, she tried to smile. "How was your day?" she asked. "Quiet," I said. And I meant it. On my end, everything was very quiet, because all the noise was happening on hers. She hovered there for a second longer, like she was about to say something important, then thought better of it. Shuffled off to the kitchen to pretend to make herself busy. I just kept watching the screen, pretending not to notice the way her hands were shaking when she poured herself a glass of water. Pretending not to hear the slight hitch in her breathing when her phone buzzed and she immediately silenced it. Pretending not to know that everything she built, her career, her fake little work family, her image of being the sweet, dedicated employee, was burning to the ground behind her. The first real crack happened 2 days later. I was at my desk, pretending to work from home, when she stomped into the apartment, practically kicking the door off its hinges. Face flushed, eyes wild. "They suspended me," she snapped, like it was somehow my fault. I raised an eyebrow. Set my coffee down. "For what?" I asked, all wide-eyed innocence. She started pacing. Something about investigation pending, code of conduct violation. Someone sent footage. She didn't say what the footage was. Didn't say who was in it. Didn't say anything that would actually implicate her. Because she was still clinging to the hope that she could lie her way out of this if she just spun it hard enough. But I could see it written all over her face. She was trapped, and she knew it. "They can't fire me over this," she muttered, mostly to herself. "There's no proof it was anything serious. No proof. God, if she only knew." I sipped my coffee and nodded along like I was the most supportive boyfriend in the world. "That's rough," I said. She glared at me like she could somehow tell I wasn't buying it, but didn't know why. Didn't know how much I already knew. Later that night, after she went to bed, or at least pretended to, I could hear her muffled crying from the bathroom. I pulled up her company's internal memo site. Someone leaked the HR statement. It didn't name names, of course, but it made it crystal clear what had gone down. Undisclosed relationship between a supervisor and subordinate. Violation of trust and leadership standards. Pending termination following final review. And it got worse. Word had gotten out to her coworkers. Screenshots of the footage were making the rounds. Blurry, grainy, but recognizable if you knew the people. Her coworkers knew. Her boss's wife somehow knew. There were rumors that she showed up at the office herself, screaming in the lobby, dragging her husband out by the collar, throwing his work laptop at his head in front of security. It was becoming a full-blown office legend. And the best part? None of it pointed back to me. I wasn't even in the story. I was just the invisible hand that tipped the first domino. She kept pacing around the apartment over the next few days, snapping at every little thing. Couldn't sleep. Barely ate. Jumped every time her phone buzzed. And still, she didn't confess. I think that's what made it so satisfying. She would have rather drowned in her own lies than admit she was wrong. And honestly, that was fine with me, because I wasn't looking for closure. I was looking for consequences. 3 days after she got suspended, she tried to pick a fight. It wasn't even about anything real. She started snapping over the dishes, over the Wi-Fi being too slow, over the fact that I didn't answer one of her texts fast enough. Anything she could grab onto, just to feel like she still had control over something. I stayed calm. I let her throw her little tantrums, because I knew what she didn't want to say out loud. She wasn't mad at me. She was terrified. And people in freefall will grab at anything, even if it's knives. By the end of the week, the official termination letter came through. Not just for her boss. For her too. They couldn't risk keeping her around once everything started leaking to clients. Too many people knew. Too many reputations tied to it. They had to cut her loose to save face. She came home that night with the letter crumpled in her hand, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Threw it down on the table in front of me like she was daring me to say something. I didn't. I just glanced at it, then went back to scrolling my phone. She stood there for a long moment, breathing heavy, waiting, wanting a fight, wanting anything. Finally, she cracked. "Are you happy now?" she snapped, voice shaking. I looked up, met her eyes. "Why would I be happy about that?" I said, real quiet. And I meant it. I wasn't happy. I wasn't even angry anymore. I was just finished. She broke down after that, started sobbing, slid down the wall like she didn't have the strength to stand up anymore. Mumbled something about mistakes, about being so stressed, about not knowing how it even happened. The same tired excuses cheaters always reach for when the walls close in. I didn't interrupt. I didn't argue. I just listened. Because there's nothing you can say to people like that that'll change anything. She finally looked up at me, makeup streaked, hair a mess, desperation leaking out of every pore. "I can fix this," she whispered. "You can trust me. Please. We can start over." I sat there for a minute, pretending to think about it. Then I smiled a little. Not cruel, not mocking, just sad. "You're not the person I want to start over with," I said. She stared at me like she couldn't process the words. Like the idea that I wasn't begging for her back didn't fit into her reality. She kept trying, though. Begged, pleaded, swore up and down she would do anything, to fix it. She offered to quit drinking, to quit her job, to block every male coworker she'd ever spoken to. She offered to move cities, to start over somewhere new. She offered to marry me. It would have been almost funny if it wasn't so pathetic. I let her talk herself dry. Then I stood up, grabbed my keys, and headed for the door. "Where are you going?" she demanded, voice cracking. I looked back once. "Somewhere quiet," I said, and then I walked out, left her sitting there in the wreckage she built. Over the next few weeks, I watched the fallout from a distance. Mutual friends stopped inviting her places. Her LinkedIn profile quietly changed from operations manager to open to work. No new posts, no flashy updates, just silence. Every once in a while, I get a drunk text. "I miss you. Please just talk to me. I'm lost without you." I never responded. Not because I was still angry, but because there was nothing left to say. She made her choices. All I did was make sure she lived with them. Life got quieter after I left. Not instantly. At first, there were still the texts, the missed calls, the awkward run-ins with mutual friends who didn't know how to pick a side without looking like traitors. But eventually, the noise faded. It always does. People move on. New scandals replace old ones. New gossip fills the vacuum. And the people who burned you? They're just background static after a while. I moved into a small apartment across town. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. It smelled like fresh paint and possibility. No ghost of cheap cologne in the sheets. No late-night anxiety waiting for someone to come home. Just clean, empty silence. And for the first time in a long time, I liked the quiet. A few months later, while I was standing in line at a coffee shop, I bumped into one of her old coworkers. Someone I barely knew, but had seen at a few of her company holiday parties. He recognized me immediately. Gave me that awkward half-smile people use when they're not sure if you're still radioactive or not. I nodded politely. He hesitated, then said it. "You dodged a bullet, man." I shrugged, like it didn't matter anymore. But he laughed a little and leaned in, lowering his voice. "She's been a mess," he said. "Total meltdown. Burned a ton of bridges. Nobody'll touch her now. HR blacklisted her from half the companies around here." I didn't say anything, just smiled thinly and ordered my coffee. Because what could I say? I wasn't angry. I wasn't vindictive. I wasn't anything. I was free. 2 weeks after that, I got a LinkedIn notification. New connection request. Her. New job title under her name. At some rinky-dink startup nobody'd ever heard of. Way below her old pay grade. Way below her old standards. I didn't accept the request. I didn't even click on her profile. I just archived the notification and went back to my life. The last text she ever sent me came about a month later. No words. Just a picture. The cheap hotel keycard. The one I'd found wedged behind our headboard that started all of this. She must have kept it. Maybe as a reminder. Maybe as a punishment. Maybe because she still didn't fully understand that once you break something real, you don't get to tape it back together and call it whole again. I stared at the picture for a long minute. Then I deleted it. Not in anger. Not to erase it. But because I didn't need it anymore. That chapter was over. It didn't matter how much she regretted it. It didn't matter how much it cost her. She wasn't part of my story anymore. I guess if there's anything to take from this, anything real, it's this. Sometimes revenge isn't yelling or fighting or slamming doors. Sometimes it's just moving on, living well, being happy without them, and knowing, deep down, they'll never find that kind of peace again. Not after what they did. Some people build graves with their own hands. All you have to do is let them. And that's the story. If you're still here, that means you're one of us. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button. I drop new chaos every single day, and trust me, tomorrow's story It's even worse than this one.